Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to actually change the bottom bracket. Now to do that, it's actually, again, it is pretty straightforward. To check if there was play in the bracket, all you need to do is waggle the cranks from side to side, and if there was any movement in there, you probably need to change the bearings. So, very, very simple. We only really need two tools to do this. An Allen key set and a tool to remove the bottom bracket. So, first things first, we need to actually remove the Allen key bolts, which actually clamp the crank around the axle. So 5mm Allen key, undo these bolts. One of the key things in here is there's a small black spacer which pops out. That's really important that you don't lose that, because that sits just inside the crank. It's quite fiddly, but you just need to flick it out with your nail. The next thing we need to do is remove this end cap, and that's basically what tightens the crank up. So on this tool we have this little star-shaped piece on the end, and that fits inside the cap. Yeah, and you just loosen it off. Once you've loosened it, you should be able to turn it with your hand. There we go. And again, make sure you don't lose that. Pop the crank arm off, very simple. And then the next thing we need to do is actually push through the axle to the other side, just to free it off. Yeah, it pops off. Make sure you free the chain off the other side, and then take it all the way out. Now at this point, it's really useful to give this a really good clean using some degreaser products, and you can just use hot soapy water because it's really quite difficult to clean on the back of the chain set. So now's a really good opportunity to get in there and get all the gunk and grease off the back of your chain rings. Okay, the next thing we need to do is actually take the bottom bracket bearing out of the frame. So these are actually really clearly marked with an L and an R, depending on which side of the frame they go on, and also there's an arrow to show you which way it tightens up. Okay, this one tightens to the right, so obviously we're going to go to the left to loosen it. So push down quite firmly on the cup, yeah, and then just use the tool. This tool's great because it's got a really nice long lever on it, so it's great for lots of leverage. So it takes no effort at all. And just unwind that, and because it's a nice clean thread, just screw it out with my hand, and that's it. So that's the bearing that the chain set rotates on. Now, really that's all there is to it. You can't actually service or repair this part, you just have to replace it with a new one. But it's really important that you get the correct one. There are two different styles. One is English and one is what we call Italian. Now this particular bicycle is an Italian, which means it has two right-hand threads, whereas an English has a left and right-hand thread. So it's important you know exactly what it is you're going to be buying. So again, take your old one to the bike shop, and if you're not sure, you've got one there to use as a reference. Okay, so we're going to refit it now. Very simple, it's just doing everything in reverse. So get the bearing, and this one actually has the side and the direction which it tightens up. So you position it back in there. There's plenty of grease and stuff already in there. Screw it back in. You can see how smooth it is. Okay, pop the tool back on. Just making sure you line up the splines, and then last little bit. Again, it's nice and easy because we've got a nice long lever. Yeah, and then nice and tight, and that's it. So that's the actual bearing replaced. The next thing we need to do is refit the chain set. So very simple. You just get your chain out of the way. So obviously you need to make sure the chain goes back on. Slip that through. Yeah, and then if you just pop the chain back on the chain ring, it's not going to get caught out of the way. Okay, and then shove that all the way through. You should be able to push it through by hand, and then give it a little turn. Put the chain on, that's fine. Get the crank arm. Obviously make sure you position it so it's opposite the other one. Slip that on. And the next thing we need to do is actually tighten it up before we clamp it. So we need this little cap. We've got this little tool here. We'll just use that to tighten it up. And again, because it's got a nice big lever on it, that makes it nice and simple. So the next thing we need to do is put the bolts back in so we can clamp it. So we've got a 5mm Allen key. Now, the little thin black washer, okay, that needs to go back in the centre. Yeah, and then pop the bolts in. Like so. Once they've made contact, I'm just going to give those half a turn on each just to make sure they're nice and tight. And that's it, we're ready to go.